প্রভু কথা গালা আচার্য ঠাকুর প্রভু কথা গালা আচার্য ঠাকুর কাহা মোরা স্বরূপ রূপ কাহা সনাতন কাহা কাহা দাস রঘুনাথ পতিত পাবন কাহা দাস রঘুনাথ পতিত পাবন কাহা মোর ভট্ট যুগ কাহা কবিরা কাহা মোর একাকালে কথা গালা গৌর নটরা একাকালে কথা গালা গৌর নটরা পাশানে কুঠিব মাথা আনালে পশিব বাসানে কুঠিব মাতা আনালে গৌরাঙ্গ গুণেরা নিধি কথা গেলে পাব Gauranga gunera nidhe kotha gale pabo. Se sabo sangiro sange je koila bila je sabo sangiro sange. Si sanga payaya kade naratamoda. Si sangavna paya kade naratamoda. Jaya Nila Prema Dhana Karuna Prachur Jaya Nila Hena Prabhu Kotha Gala Acharya Thakur Hena Prabhu Kotha Gala Acharya Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you. What's the occasion? Narottam Das Thakur, he compiled this song, or wrote this song. Wasn't like just sitting there in Vrindavan one day and said, I think I'll write a song about separation. But actually his spiritual master and dearmost friend, they had just passed away. Just passed away. So in the depths of feeling great intense separation from Lokanath Das Goswami and Srinivasacharya, he wrote the song. So he who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where is such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Subdamodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Okay. Good. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Budale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Paracharine Nivashesha Shunyavari Paskatyade Shatarane Oma Gyantimarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshudanvinitam Nena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Snapitam Dina Putale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Svabadandikam Bandeham Sri Guru Siyuta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganath Raganatam Vidam Dam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shiva Shagam Vidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanushati Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapatarupascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavani Bho Vaishnavi Bho Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So with the permission of my older God brothers, okay, I'll try to say a few words. Today is the disappearance day of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It is known as Tirubhav Maha Mahotsava. And there's so much to be said. It's interesting when, not interesting, a point that many of you know me as, in fact, someone told me once I should have a t-shirt. When your number's up, call my number. I do a lot of funerals. I do many funerals. I did one last week. But, sometimes a funeral, there'll be a lot of people there. And there'll be eulogies. Eulogies are given a name when you say something about the person who's passed away and departed. And I've observed over the decades that there's very little they can say about people, of any significance. Sometimes they'll talk about how they were really good at cribbage or card games or cooking this or cooking that or taking them to school. Or sometimes they get into, it's appropriate that maybe the father, they came, that was the generation when they came, practically penniless from India and worked very, 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 very hard and established a life here in America. So there's many different, there's struggles and so on. I remember once it was a gentleman who was a scientist and he had started something in China, some research project. And some of the partners from China were there and they did a half-hour PowerPoint presentation on all the things he was working on. You could have died just listening to the whole thing. It was just like everyone in the audience was like, But, what to say, because actually we're all not that great, But when the great devotees pass on, and Srila Prabhupada, we're speaking about Srila Prabhupada, we can just speak for days and days and days and days. Our whole life actually is an offering, a eulogy to Srila Prabhupada, because actually they are great souls. And that's what it is said that you have the Avirbhav and Tirubhav. Avirbhav means the appearance day of someone, a devotee, and then you have the disappearance. And I have heard that the disappearance is more important in the sense that when someone passes away, they lived their whole life in Krishna consciousness, and there's so much to say, all their achievements, glorifying their Krishna consciousness, and for us that means the spreading of Krishna consciousness, what they accomplished in their lifetime amongst us. So this is one book I have read from since it was published in 1979. Satsu Maharaj's book, He Lives Forever. what I did, there's 7 different verses he quotes from the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, different aspects of understanding, trying to understand Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, his disappearance pastime, and how we should understand that and relate to it, and the different lessons that come out or are taught by the spiritual master when they pass away. What I've done today, though, is I'll read the different verses, and I just picked out a few different points from each of these short chapters, if you like, from the book. And if we run out of time, I can always continue this evening if you like, but I tried to make it just to the point. So there's 7 verses quoted, and the first one is Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 6th chapter, text 21. This is the story of Narada Muni, explaining, well, let me read the verse here. Hantasmin janmani bhavan namam drashtum iharhati avipakva kasayanam durdarshoham kuyoginam. This is Lord Vishnu speaking to Narada Muni. O Narada, the Lord spoke, excuse me, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. I'd like to thank yesterday's speaker for saving me a little water. There's still a little water in the bottom of the cup here. Thank you. So this verse in this chapter, the theme is that, and I'll read just a few of the different paragraphs from the elaboration on this, is that the spiritual master's disappearance, for those who aren't perfect, it increases our desire to see, to be pure, and to surrender more. And that's why Krishna disappeared from Narada Muni's sight. He was sitting in the forest meditating. Krishna's right there in his heart, and all of a sudden just disappeared. Why did he do that? And he's saying right here, I did that because you're not completely pure, and just to increase your desire to see me and to increase your Krishna consciousness. And that's one reason or a lesson to be learned when the spiritual master leaves. So there's 2 or 3 little paragraphs here. Krishna next tells Narada, I have left you just to increase your attachment to me. And the same thing applies to the spiritual master. It should not be that after the spiritual master disappears, the disciples' attachment for him gradually wanes and the devotees are sustained when the spiritual master is present. But in his absence, their memory of him deteriorates. And don't think that if you did not always have personal association with Srila Prabhupada, you did not know him. Even if that is a fact, the opportunity to approach him continues. Many who had personal association with Srila Prabhupada feel that they did not take advantage of it. Yet they also have the opportunity, even now after he had left, to increase their attachment for him. This association is something each of us deliberately has to cultivate. Here Krishna says, you would like to see me, but I will not appear before you because you are not pure. But on the other hand, the reason I've disappeared is so that you can understand what you have missed. And you can now feel and act in such a way that you can gain me before your life is over. So this we should deliberately cultivate, increasing our attachment to Srila Prabhupada. And there are so many ways that this can be done. Okay, so second verse. Dukkha majje kona dukkha haya guru tara. Krishna bhakti vihara vina dukkha nahi deki para. And this is Lord Chaitanya conversing with Ramananda Roy. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, of all kinds of distress, what is the most painful? Sri Ramananda replied, apart from separation from the devotee of Krishna, I do not I know of no unbearable happiness. Unhappiness. Now our spiritual master, the leader of all the other devotees, is gone. Are we then like that army, any army that has lost its commander-in-chief? Is the spiritual master like the chief Kshatriya upon whose death the whole army is considered defeated? Sometimes with a pack of animals, if you defeat the leader animal, the whole pack is defeated and they run away. Is it like that with us? No, definitely not. In spiritual life, the Guru trains his disciples in such a way that after his departure, they don't even feel that they have lost their leader. But if there is no devotee in the world, then Ramananda Roy says, this is the most unhappy condition. If for some reason you are cut off from the devotees, maybe it came about through your own foolishness or by the arrangement of karma, then you will experience the greatest despair. We should not minimize the importance of associating with each other. We have lost the physical presence of the greatest devotee, and now more than ever we should appreciate even the so-called minor devotees. This is a very, very good point. In the absence of the spiritual master, we should increase our quality of our association with other devotees, find solace in that association and serving together the mission of the spiritual master. Next one, someone may think, I would like to associate with Prabhupada, but now there is no such exalted devotee. Yes, but Prabhupada's disciples are devotees. If you think that these devotees are not suitable for you and you want to do without any association, then you will experience the worst unhappiness. You should stay in the association devotees. Any person who doesn't worship Krishna, who is too attached to his family, who doesn't stick to devotional service, who doesn't associate with devotees, and who doesn't render service to a superior, he is most unhappy. So, again, I'm just skipping over many different points so I could get through all 7 of these. The third one, prasangam ajaram pasam atmana kavyo vidu saeva sadhushu krito mokshadvaram upavritam. This is the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, text 20. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul, but that same attachment, when directed to our self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. We have all been very fortunate after millions and millions of lifetimes in this material world to get the association of a great sadhu, a Mahabhagavata, Srila Prabhupada. We are very fortunate persons. Now Srila Prabhupada has departed from this world, but that does not mean that our attachment has departed. Ordinarily, when a man dies, his wife observes a little mourning and then looks for another husband for sense gratification. In fact, society encourages this, but in our case, it is not that the spiritual master dies, or that our relationship with him dies, or that our attachment to him dies. It is not that because the disciple is still alive, he has to become attached to another guru. Rather, the one guru who gave us Krishna consciousness is still with us. On the title page of his Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada has written, dedicated to my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. So that's what we have been discussing, how to become more attached to Srila Prabhupada. Understanding his disappearance is a way for us to increase our attachment. Now, after his recent departure, we are taking various ways of remembering Srila Prabhupada. Devotees who are worshiping a Murti of Srila Prabhupada, hearing his tapes more often and more carefully, trying to surround themselves with all semblances of his personal presence, and trying to understand that his instructions must be followed very carefully. Any way you can, increase your attachment to for Srila Prabhupada. This is our motive in reading relevant verses in these classes. In India, Chutananda Maharaj quoted some lines from a Vaishnava scripture. One great Vaishnava wrote, "My spiritual master has left this world. Now when I visit Radhakunda, it appears to me like the gaping jaws of some monster. And when I see Govardhan Hill, it appears to be rearing before me like a python. So if the spiritual master is not there, what is left? Okay. In his concluding words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada writes, I still consider His divine grace to always be present with me by His Vani, His words. There are two ways of association, by Vani and by Vapu. Vani means words and Vapu means physical presence. Physical presence is sometimes appreciable and sometimes not, but Vani continues to exist eternally. Therefore, we must take advantage of the Vani, not the physical presence. Bhagavad Gita, for example, is the Vani of Lord Krishna. Although Krishna was personally present 5,000 years ago and is no longer physically present from the materialistic point of view, Bhagavad Gita continues. Then Srila Prabhupada tells the whole wonderful story of how he met his spiritual master and how he gradually formed his life in service to his spiritual master. He started back to Godhead magazine and began writing Srimad Bhagavatam and finally came to America. At the end of this passage, Srila Prabhupada writes, I think that His divine grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, is always seeing my activities and guiding me within my heart by His words. This is not merely a poetic metaphor. The Supersoul is not alone, but is present with all His associates. Certainly the spiritual master is an associate of the Lord, especially in the hearts of His disciples. So, the Lord is there, and He is there with His devotees and associates. It is to be admitted that whatever translation work I have done is through the inspiration of my spiritual master, because personally I am most insignificant and incompetent to do this materially impossible work. I do not think myself a very learned scholar, but I have full faith in the service of my spiritual master, His divine grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. If there is any credit to my activities of translating, it is due to His divine grace. Certainly, if His divine grace were physically present at this time, it would have been a great occasion for jubilation. And even though He is not physically present, I am confident that He is pleased by this work of translation. So Srila Prabhupada is telling us that his Guru is with him and that his Guru is pleased. It was many years after his Guru had passed away that the Chaitanya Charitamrita was finished. Yet he says that he knows that his spiritual master is very pleased and that he is still present. We may not understand all these things, but if we try to follow the instructions of our spiritual master, we will gradually advance in our realization. So this is an important part of the Krishna consciousness philosophy, which is now being impressed upon us. How to please the spiritual master more and more. Service and separation is very real. So, number 4, this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 28th chapter, verse 46. Yada no pala betang grav ushmanam pratur archati asit samvigya hridaya yutta brashta mrige yata. While she was serving her husband by massaging his legs, she could feel that his feet were no longer warm and could thus understand that he had already passed from the body. She felt great anxiety upon being left alone. Bereft of her husband's company, she felt exactly as the she-deer feels upon being separated from its mate. Our relationship with Srila Prabhupada is always that we are, this is the 4th canto section about Puranjana and how in the next life he became Malaya Dwaja. Actually, she became Vidarbhi, and her husband was Malaya Dwaja, a king. The story goes on, and this they went off to the forest, and he passed away. So there's a few verses about this. So our philosophy, our relationship with Srila Prabhupada is always that we are his menial servants, and we should never forget that. It's not that he goes into the background of our consciousness and we become the lords of all we survey and try to carve out some kind of enjoyment for ourselves. Devotional service means you serve him, and serving him means serving his mission. He is a great personality. He doesn't take service only in dressing and feeding. He takes service in executing big, worldwide activities which are his personal service to his spiritual master and to Krishna. So anything you can do to help in that preaching is just as direct and personal as bodily service. Srila Prabhupada would give us that bodily service also, but now it is not possible. Now everyone should take to the service of this Krishna consciousness movement, which is Srila Prabhupada's mission. This verse describes the moment when the spiritual master who has been living with his disciples and guiding them suddenly leaves his body. Certainly this is a great calamity for the devotees, yet his passing away is not the same as the passing away of an ordinary man. I was asked to attend a funeral today and speak about the passing away of a spirit soul. So we know from Bhagavad Gita that a person does not die but goes on to another body. We cannot say exactly where or into what species of life a particular soul has gone. Still, we can give them some consolation by explaining that the soul has gone to another body according to his desires. We can explain his death, that since death is inevitable, we should not be attached to material life. Everyone, including all the relatives of the departed, should prepare themselves for inevitable death, but we cannot assure anyone about the future of this karmi's departed soul. If a great personality departs, it is, in one sense, a matter of rejoicing. When Bhishma left his body, the demigod showered flowers from the sky and beat drums. So it goes on to talk about how the newspapers in India, being somewhat pious, they actually properly glorified Srila Prabhupada's passing. When the mortal body of the spiritual master expires, his disciples should cry. However, the disciples and the spiritual master are never separated. This is from Prabhupada's purport. Because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple follows the instructions of the spiritual master strictly. This is called the association of Vani. Physical presence is called Vapu. As long as the spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the physical body of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is no longer physically existing, the disciple should serve the instructions of the spiritual master. So, the wife of the king is feeling like a she-deer. Oh, what am I going to do? I am unprotected. And then she speaks, "Oh, king, please get up. What about the world? You used to protect the whole world. Please, the world is very much afraid and it is your duty to protect her." But what can be done? He's gone. And now that Srila Prabhupada is gone according to Krishna's arrangement, the world will have to go on without him. The world that never appreciated him anyway will have to go on without him. So what to do? It's stated here. The perfect disciples of the Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions of the spiritual master. At the present moment, practically the entire world is afraid of rogues and non-devotees. Therefore, this Krishna conscious movement is meant to save the world from irreligious principles. Everyone should cooperate with this movement in order to bring about actual peace and happiness in the world. 5. Continuation. Chittam doru mayam chitva tasyam pratyu kalevaram adipyat charumarane vilapanti manodade. Then she prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed the dead body of her husband upon it. When this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband. Here is the essential meaning of being devoted to the spiritual master. You're ready to give your life. That may mean that you give up your life immediately, or that you give your life by serving the spiritual master throughout your whole lifetime. Either way, you're giving your whole life energy when the spiritual master asks. Some people take a spiritual master as a pet. Some people keep a dog just so they can say, as some people keep a dog, just so they can say, "Yes, I have a guru." But the real meaning is that the spiritual master's order is the disciple's life and soul. Once a disciple accepts the spiritual master, he has nothing to think about or wonder about except carrying out the spiritual master's orders. In the next purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, when one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's a very important line in Prabhupada's purports. As explained before, this means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instructions of the spiritual master. This is technically called Vani Seva. Okay. In the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the story of the Prachetas who were thinking of their spiritual master, Lord Shiva, and meditating upon his instructions. In his purport, Srila Prabhupada comments, "This is the secret of success. After being initiated and receiving the orders of the spiritual master, the disciple should unhesitatingly think about the instructions of the spiritual master and should not allow himself to be disturbed by anything else." Okay. If a disciple is very serious in executing the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So someone says, "Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna?" What are you going to tell him? What are you going to tell him? According to what we just read, Virabhadra. Where will you find Krishna? In executing the orders of the spiritual master. So where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? Here it is. Over and over again. That's where we find Krishna. In fulfilling the instructions of the spiritual master. Executing the mission of the spiritual master. Prabhupada had a mission to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. There's so many gurus in India, they don't have any mission. They don't really have a mission. They just kind of being a guru. Prabhupada had a mission to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. This is the only secret of success in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush in Vrindavan, while at the same time engaging in sense gratification, if one sticks to the principle following the words of the spiritual master, he will see the Supreme Lord without difficulty. 6. Sutta Goswami, Sutta Uvacha, Iti Biti Praja Drohat, Sarva Dharma Vivitsaya, Tato Vinashanam Pragad Yatra Deva Vrata Patat. So now we're switching to Bhishma Dev, the passing of Bhishma Dev. There's 2 verses here, 6 and 7, the last 2 verses of his book. Sutta Goswami said, being afraid for having killed so many subjects on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhisthira went to the scene of the massacre. There, Bhishma Dev was lying on a bed of arrows about to pass away. So he's writing a lot about the comparison between Bhishma Dev passing away and Srila Prabhupada's passing away. And it says, so during his last days, Prabhupada was surrounding himself with the holy name. His whole life had been dedicated to spreading the holy name to every town and village. For his passing away, he especially wanted to fill his room with devotees chanting Hare Krishna, and Krishna fulfilled that wish. Srila Prabhupada left his body in the most sacred place on the earth, Vrindavan, surrounded by Vaishnavas. We are neophyte devotees, just recently picked up from the Malecha class, but anyone who chants Hare Krishna, even if he is born in a dog-eater family, has to be considered an exalted devotee who is qualified to perform Vedic Yajna. Srila Prabhupada was surrounded by kirtan performed by the Vaishnavas he had created, who were qualified only by following his orders, and that kirtan was actually Krishna. So just as Bhishma saw Krishna at the end, Srila Prabhupada also saw Krishna. As Bhishma gave instructions from the bed of arrows, Srila Prabhupada also gave instructions from a position that was so painful and difficult that it seemed to be a humanly impossible feat. Srila Prabhupada had eaten almost nothing for 6 months and his body was so emaciated. According to the doctors, his body was in such a condition that he was in intense pain, but Srila Prabhupada remained completely collected and noble and grave. And he was teaching until the end. He was teaching Subdhammadar Das that life comes from life, not from matter. He was preaching and giving instructions to many devotees. He was showing that one should preach with every breath he has, and he was teaching us how to die. Acharya means one who teaches by example, and this last lesson that Srila Prabhupada gave us was of his most wonderful and most important, one of his most wonderful and important. He taught that by his life and his books. Whatever Srila Prabhupada did was instructive. The way he ate, the way he walked, the way he dressed, the way he lay down, the way he breathed, and the way he moved. Everything a great soul does should be carefully studied, not imitated, but understood and followed. It's meant to be followed. Okay, let me just... The next verse reads, "Just see the chief of the descendants of King Bharat, Bhishma. All the great souls in the universe, namely the rishis among the demigods, brahmanas, and kings, all situated in the equality of goodness, were assembled there." The purport begins, "All of them assembled there upon hearing the news of the great warrior's impending death." We can just imagine such a great assembly of important personalities from all over the universe. Certainly everyone there would have had his own idea of spiritual life. So if someone were to appeal to them all, he'd have to know the ultimate universal principles of religion. He would have to speak in such a way that everyone would be willing to give up sectarian beliefs, or would see that all sectarian beliefs were included within his teachings. This was Bhishma's greatness as a Mahajan, a leading authority in spiritual knowledge, and Srila Prabhupada was also qualified in that way, to teach Sanatana Dharma so expertly that it could be accepted by all people all over the world. We ourselves were not satisfied with sectarian religions or establishments, society, and politics. We had become cynical, but Srila Prabhupada was able to break through that because he convinced us, you simply take the spiritual life, and here is your spiritual life without any sectarianism. You are disillusioned with politics and sectarian religions, but don't think that all religion is nonsense. Here's the science of the soul, Bhagavad Gita. It has nothing to do with Jewish or Christian or black or white. This is a spiritual truth. Srila Prabhupada's expertise was that he knew exactly how to preach to hippies, to Indians, or women, or anybody. No, I'm going to read that. Okay, and the last one, the last verse, the book. Tatapi kanta bhakti shu pasya bhupanukampitam yanme sumstyajato sakshat Krishna darshana agataha. Yet, despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life, for I am his unflinching servitor. So this is Bhishma Dev speaking about Krishna being there. Now the point is that when we remember Srila Prabhupada, we can remember Krishna. We are following the instructions of the spiritual master and spreading Krishna consciousness very actively. But to do that and simultaneously taste the transcendental mellow in it, you have to be feeling your relationship with Krishna through the spiritual master. When we perform our devotional service, sometimes it seems very worldly. For example, we have many business affairs and pushing on the Krishna conscious movement. But by chanting Hare Krishna and going to the morning devotional program in the temple and hearing about Krishna throughout the day, we acquire that taste which sustains our service. Thinking of Srila Prabhupada includes remembering his pastimes as well as his instructions. His instructions are, of course, more important, but if we can actually understand what is being described here and relish Krishna in his dealings with those who are dear to him, then we will taste the sweetness. And why shouldn't we take advantage if there is something sweetly intimate and reciprocal between Krishna and a devotee? If we can enter into that sweetness, then our service will be sweeter. And Bhishma is relishing the sweetness of thinking about Krishna and his intimate dealings with his devotees, not just as the absolute controller of all living beings. And this kind of devotional service is more advanced than love of God. Here's the thing. Some people become very unhappy when their fortunes are turned. Do you know anyone like that? Anyone get upset when things go bad? Like everyone, pretty much. When a husband or wife or mother or child are separated, they sometimes cannot even go on living. There's a famous quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. You know, after Franklin passed away, he's the President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt. She said, "I'm simply passing the last few days of my life before dying." She was feeling great separation. She just couldn't go on. And so you always hear some different stories about the wife or husband passes away, and just within a few days or a few weeks, the other one passes away. They just can't go on like that. Because it is such a reverse to them, they think of that everything has become inauspicious. In considering ourselves having just been separated from our spiritual master, you can't say it is not a great loss. But according to Bhishma Dev's instructions, it's not that we become morose or inactive or forget the meaning of life. As we have already discussed many times, the disappearance of the spiritual master activates the devotee in a new way to a closer relationship with the spiritual master, one that was not even there before. Srila Prabhupada has given us mercy in every conceivable way by giving us his books in this Krishna conscious movement. But there are so many more things that have yet to be revealed, and one unexpected blessing is that even in his absence, each one of us suddenly has the opportunity to move in closer to him. The word Upanishad means to come closer to the spiritual master, to hear from him more closely. So now we are all feeling separation, but there is nothing to be sorry about. Srila Prabhupada always encouraged us to take everything in a hopeful, enthusiastic way and push on, depending on Krishna. And that's the end of the reading. It's 8:34. Do we want to open up, or because we're continuing tonight, keep discussing more this evening? Oh, I'm on the back. The poem.
And you can ask if anyone has a question.
Yeah. Well, that in this book, page 80, that I just read the last. Is there a reprinting?
I just downloaded it.
Okay. I mean, we have the poem. Is that what you're saying? He reasons. Okay. This is the poem by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's there on Haridas Thakur's Samadhi. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name around. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There's a microphone if you want to. Anyone want to say anything at this time? We can end class and everyone can fast because there's no breakfast. End class in time for fasting. 11:50. Finish your rounds. What services you have. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.